So now you're in a different paradigm with the relationship of the governor to the legislature than we were prior to 2016. And like we talked about, prior to 2016, the governor had a far easier time with his legislative agenda than he probably does today.
No doubt.
Can you give us, an example or talk about how that might be different? How the independence of the legislature changes the dynamic of the governor to pass his agenda?
I think that and I'm not saying one political philosophy is any better than the other. They're distinct, I think that some of the reform, just give you an example, some of the spending reforms that Republicans have been able to implement in the last two sessions, the last 2 years since Governor Edwards has been the governor, never would have happened had we not had a Republican speaker in an independent legislature. I just don't believe they would have. And so that definitely was different than the 4 years prior. I mean, if Bobby Jindal said the first 2 years I was there, this is the way it was going to be, he had the votes. You could see these people vote this way because they always do. That's not prevalent now. I think there's much more. Now I think the process, having an independent executive branch and an independent legislative branch, I think the process is working the way it's supposed to, in that the executive branch brings something to the table and there's a negotiation. There is, okay, this is important to us. This is the good things about what we believe we need to get through. Then you can also have the legislative branch come and say, okay, well, this is what we don't like, or this is some of the good things that we would like to do. It's more of a compromise instead of this is the way it's going to be.
It's a deliberate, probably slower process.
It's a slower process, and it's a more heated process because people are passionate about what they believe in. And it's more heated because you really don't know if you're going to get there, whereas before you this is the way it's going to be. And so, but I think it's a healthy process. I think debate is good. I think I'm a studier of politics, and I read somewhere one time where, a good politician does not need to disregard ideas just because they're not their own. And I think that's very prevalent now. I think that when Governor Jindal was the governor and you had the Republican-controlled House and Senate, I think it'd be very hard for a Democrat to get something through, even if it was a good idea, which is not good. I'm telling you, I'm a Republican. I'm telling you, that's not good. If a Democrat had a good idea and it was going to help the state or help their district, why not consider it and implement it? That would have been very hard to do my first term with one party controlling both the executive branch and the legislative branch. Now, I think whether you're Republican or Democrat, if you have a good idea, you have a mechanism to negotiate to try to get that good idea into law or get that principle put in place so that you can help people. So it's a much more, it may be much more acrimonious, it may be much more heated, it may be much more of a longer process. I think it's a healthier process because I think the right thing eventually gets done because you have everybody at the table.